Hi, this is John Alexander from the PlayStation blog, and I'm here at the ski offices with James Stevenson, who's the community manager over at Insomniac Games. And we're going to be talking a little bit about Ratchet & Clank: A Crack in Time, which is the new, obviously, addition to the Ratchet & Clank series on PS3. So, firstly, can you give an overview of what's new in A Crack in Time, as opposed to Tools of Destruction?
Sure, lots new. I mean, obviously upgraded visuals and all that good stuff, but to start with Ratchet, he's got a new pair of hover boots, which allows him to kind of speed through the levels, go off of ramps, get up to places he couldn't get to before, and with kind of some really big levels, it's a nice new feature. It adds to his moveset in a really cool way. Ratchet will also have to kind of go explore space, so instead of just running to the ship and picking a new planet from a menu, you'll take off and you'll be in space, and you have to fly either to the next planet or along the way you can go land on some moons. We're instead of space combat, we're calling it space exploration, because the focus is, go check out these moons. On the moons, we have really hard platforming and hoverboot challenges in the later parts of the game. Early on, it's a little bit easier, but there's tons of collectibles like Zoni to upgrade your ship, Constructo weapon mods for your custom weapons, and the famous gold bolts as well. Plus, when you're out in space, there's space radio, so there's several radio stations you can tune into with DJs and commercials and movie trailers for Captain Quark's My Blaster Runs Hot. All sorts of awesome stuff. And there's some side quests too that people will ask you to go like harvest something out of a comet or tow their ship back to the depot or things like that. And then on top of that, there's a little bit of light combat, which is kind of just arcadey style against some ships, and there's even a couple like arcadey boss battles in space as well. And then we have the Clank gameplay, which is brand new time-based gameplay. Clank has these kind of multiple recorded versions of himself, and it's really hard to kind of explain, but there's going to be a demo on PSN that's kind of the tutorial level for this, so people can go check it out themselves, and we're really, really excited about this. We think the puzzle gameplay is definitely kind of very like the indie-inspired games where you're going, how do I do this? What is going on? And then you have that aha moment, and you feel really smart for a while, and we were really going for that.
Nice. That brings me on to my next question quite nicely, actually. So, was there always a sort of a long-term plan to split up Ratchet and Clank for this game, or is that something that evolved from the story, because obviously the two got separated at the end of Tools of Destruction, so you sort of had to work around that?
No, I think we kind of always had this plan. Like, we knew we wanted to do a big epic trilogy that included kind of Quest for Booty as the middle piece, and so when we were planning Tools of Destruction, like, we figured that we would end up with the end where we would kidnap Clank, and so then we kind of knew all along that we were eventually going to get to a point where Ratchet and Clank would be separated, and we would tell their stories individually, and that would be how we'd end up with their origin stories. Now, there definitely was a lot figured out along the way too, but I think we kind of had that overarching story and kind of what might happen figured out well in advance, and you even can see some of the foreshadowing of A Crack in Time that TJ put in with, like, you do a battle with Tachyon in the Court of Azimuth, which he was kind of hinting ahead to Azimuth's character during Tools of Destruction. So there's a lot of things that we were kind of planning well in advance of A Crack in Time.
Okay. Obviously there have been quite a few Ratchet games now, but this is the first time you've decided to talk about their origin stories, their background. So what made you suddenly decide to discuss that sort of stuff in the narrative?
Well, for us, this game is sort of a love letter to the fans. This is kind of like the climax of this trilogy. It's, the end of this big epic, thing we wanted to do on PS3. We really wanted to take our chance on PS3 to bring Ratchet and Clank to next gen and do a big epic story with them. And so when we got to this point, it was kind of like, well, let's go back and tie up some loose ends and answer the Angela question and answer kind of what happens with Max Apogee and things like that. So we wanted to kind of tie those up in various places, but really for the main narrative, the big story we wanted to tell was, who is Ratchet, who is Clank? This is something we get asked all the time. It's probably the top question we get from fans, and I think it felt like time to do that and really kind of give depth to their characters. So I think fans will be pretty excited to learn more about both of them.
Yeah, I think people are really looking forward to finding out sort of their secrets.
Yes.
So we're going to move on to some community questions now from people from the blog. So Unorthodoxic asks, just wondering if you have any DLC planned for A Crack in Time.
Nothing really right now. So we're just happy to have the game done at this point, and we've got some folks moving on to new projects, and we're always working on new stuff, but no plans for DLC at the moment.
Okay. New Sky 87 asks, will we unlock any goodies, or as Wheaty Half in the German blog suggests, a trophy for having Tools of Destruction or Quest for Booty save games on your hard drive?
There are some unlockables. You actually do get a discount at the vendors on and get quicker access to the weapons from Tools of Destruction if you have a Tools of Destruction save.
Cool.
And if you have a Quest for Booty save, you will have a pirate hat for Ratchet if you so desire.
Nice. Afuki asks, does Crack in Time have any unannounced weapons?
Well, the last two weapons that we revealed, or last three really, were the Constructo Shotgun, the Tesla Spikes, and the Dynamo of Doom. So we showed all the weapons for folks, and in the past we kind of kept tried to keep a couple behind closed doors, but this year, the last two made their way out there, and you know how that sometimes happens. So they're all out there, but I think folks have been trying to keep themselves spoiler free. Hopefully they haven't seen everything in action yet. Folks that watch every single video will obviously have seen a little bit more.
Now, one of these weapons was fan designed.
Yes.
Is that something you're likely to do more of in the future with your future games?
Well, with like Tools of Destruction, we had the contest where fans got to pick which animal we would turn enemies into in the game, which they chose penguins, which was awesome. And so this time it was the weapon contest. I think there's a lot of opportunities, and we're always, whenever we're doing things at Insomniac, we're trying to figure out ways like, well, if we're stuck between something, like maybe the fans could decide. And so it's pretty much any meeting where we have this sort of opportunity, we're encouraging people to think about that and think about ways we could bring the fans into the process and make them feel a little bit more involved. And I think for the fans that even a lot of the fans who can go into the museum and see their designs, because we took a lot of the designs and put them into the Insomniac Museum, so you can see a ton of the entries. We're going to keep encouraging them to try and contribute to the game.
Nice. Assassin KK3 asks, is this the last Ratchet and Clank game?
Well, I like to say never, but you'll need to go play the game, and I think you'll find out a lot more about Ratchet and Clank's destinies and if they lie on the same path by the time you finish this game. So you should know a lot more by the end of it.
Interesting. Okay.
How's that for cryptic?
Nice. Yeah. Andy MCK Forever asks, what was the reason for not putting multiplayer in the game?
We start every game with basically a bucket of resources, right? And we can distribute those wherever we want. From the very beginning, we intended this to be a single-player epic story arc, and kind of really from the beginning of Tools of Destruction. Now, if we decided to do multiplayer, we would have had to take some resources out of that bucket that single player ended up getting and put it into multiplayer. So the single player wouldn't be as good, and the more resources we take away from single player, the better multiplayer gets. So it's kind of that tough balance. You either have to fully commit to multiplayer or not do it. And the problem too for us was that if you go back to Ratchet and Clank 3 and Ratchet Gladiator, not a lot of people played those games online. It was like 1.5%, 2% of the total people that bought the game actually played it online. And if you think about taking 30 or 40% of our resources for the game and putting them into something that 1 or 2% may play, it makes that kind of it's still a tough decision, because people love the multiplayer. We love the multiplayer. I think Ratchet and Clank 3 and Gladiator's multiplayer is fantastic. But it's a really hard decision to take that amount of resources for a very small percentage of the people who actually play the game. Yeah,
that makes perfect sense. The same user also asks, is Talwyn in this game?
Talwyn is not a main character in this game. We really are focused on Ratchet's relationship with Azimuth, and Clank has his relationship with Sigmund and Orvis, and then you've got Quark in there and Dr. Nefarious. We have so many actors, and we can only tell so much of a story with the amount of time we have for the various cinematics. So Talwyn's not a main feature in this game, but I think you do kind of find out what happened to her if you pay attention. So fans will at least know what's up with Talwyn and Kronk and Zephyr.
Nice, something to look out for then. Is there any chance we'll see a Ratchet 1 to 4 Blu-ray collection like the God of War collection?
Well, like I say, I mean, there's always a chance. Who knows? I think that's a really cool idea. It's actually a lot of work to go dig up old projects like that and get them working again. So I'm not really sure what the feasibility is. So don't get excited or expect anything. We'll just see if something like that comes up, and if it's something Sony really wants to do, and if there's interest in it, then maybe something will come out of it. But there's no plans at this time.